Welcome to the Nintendo Power Zone, and this is Wild Odyssey. In 2017, Nintendo released two games that both have a rightful claim for the Game of the Year award. Both games have been critically and commercially successful and have sparked a debate. Which game is better? Our goal here with Wild Odyssey is to break the games down into multiple categories and place them head to head against one another to determine once and for all which game deserves the title of Game of the Year. The Nintendo Switch is a multi-purpose console. You have the ability to play on your home television in dock mode, or remove it from the dock and take it on the go and play in handheld mode. I think that fundamentally every game developed for the console should have a certain aspect that makes you desire to play the game in both modes equally. Yet the brilliance of the Nintendo Switch is the portability factor. Without it, the Switch is yet another underpowered, underwhelming Nintendo console like the Wii and the Wii U before it. Nintendo's track record with handheld consoles has also become a far more secure route than that of their home consoles, and the Switch's portability factor almost guaranteed that the console would be successful right out the gate. Yet not every game available on the console is a worthwhile portable experience. Take ARMS into account. The tablet screen may be a little too small and its motion controls don't really lend itself to gaming on the go. Even if you play in handheld mode, it's not quite a comfortable experience. Now this brings us to the two games in question, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey. Which game is the better handheld experience? That's what we're going to explore in today's episode of Wild Odyssey. From the reveal of the Nintendo Switch in October of 2016, we have been shown that the console is in fact the dream machine Nintendo always should have been making, a system that rectifies one of the biggest problems that Nintendo fans have had since the release of the Game Boy in 1989, which is to be a Nintendo fan means having to support at least two consoles simultaneously. Think about it. The NES and the Super NES ran concurrent with the Game Boy era. The GameCube shared its life cycle with the Game Boy Advance. The Wii and the Nintendo DS secured mountains of money for Nintendo side by side, and the Wii U and the 3DS continued that trend. The Switch may share a year or two of its life cycle with the 3DS, but there is this overwhelming feeling that the 3DS is the last of its kind. There will never again be a dedicated handheld console now that the Nintendo Switch can provide gamers with a true console experience on the go. When comparing Breath of the Wild to Odyssey, I thought to myself, what factors into making a great handheld experience? That was the biggest challenge for me when coming up with this video series. In fact, this script has undergone 4 rewrites because of that. Ultimately, I was able to break it down by the following categories. Battery life. Which of the games is a bigger drain on the console? Controls. Which of the game's control schemes lends itself best for a portable experience? And reward factor. Which of the games gives you a bigger sensation of accomplishment in a pick up and play aspect? These 3 subcategories allowed me to come to the conclusion that I will present you with today. Let's start with the battery life. In order to be as accurate as possible, I made sure my console was set to default settings when playing both games in handheld mode. I also played each game continuously multiple times and allowed the batteries to drain completely during each play session. These are my results and my results alone, and I'm certain that by fiddling with the console settings, you can get varying results depending on which game you're playing. While playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I was able to play the game for an average of 2.5 hours before the console would completely shut off due to the drained battery. While playing Super Mario Odyssey, I was able to play the game for an average of 2 hours and 50 minutes before the battery would completely drain, so around 20 minutes more of playtime. I won't speculate as to why, these are just the results I got when playing, so it should go without saying that Super Mario Odyssey takes it in this subcategory. Moving on to controls, as my colleague Jay Brilliant pointed out in episode 3, both games have phenomenal controls, but when you start thinking about the controls when playing the games portably, there should be some additional analysis. Both games utilize motion controls to varying degrees, and as a result, both games have varying degrees of success when playing on the go. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild utilizes the motion controls less than Super Mario Odyssey does, but there are segments of the game that feel broken due to them. In episode 3, JB pointed out how infuriating the Maze Shrine was. When playing in handheld mode, this particular shrine felt nigh impossible, and I had to exit this shrine altogether and tackle it again once I had redocked the console. It should be noted, however, that this shrine is also executable in tabletop mode, but in pure handheld mode, this is a nightmare. And it wasn't just this shrine. There are a few others in the game that utilize motion controls in a similar fashion, and I could not play these in a car unless I had a separate car dock that could play the aforementioned tabletop mode. But this only applies to a handful of shrines. For the most part, this game runs pretty flawlessly with default controls when playing on the go. As for Super Mario Odyssey, motion controls play a major part of the game altogether. The new gimmick of this game is the character of Cappy. Cappy allows Mario to go from super to extraordinary, but this comes at a cost because in order to use Cappy to the fullest, motion controls are required. And this is where Odyssey suffers as a portable game. When playing in handheld mode, there are certain commands that become unexecutable, like throwing Cappy straight down while jumping. Something else to keep in mind is that in the handheld mode, shaking the system to use Cappy effectively takes your eyes off the screen and can lead to your immediate death. Something else you want to keep in mind is the overall cost of a Nintendo Switch. Do you really want to shake a $300 console around while you're on the bus or train or even a plane? What if you drop it because you're shaking the system? However, it should be noted if you're playing in tabletop mode, Super Mario Odyssey doesn't suffer from these issues. It's pretty flawless, but as a pure handheld, its control scheme is really unflattering. So in this subcategory, I gotta give it hands down to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And finally, we move to the reward factor. This is the subcategory that gave me the most drama. Both games have a collectathon mentality, but they differ in their execution. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has 120 shrines and 900 Korok seeds, but locating them can sometimes be a daunting task. The world of Hyrule is so expansive that you could go for long periods of time without finding them. If you don't want to do that, you could go looking for the lost memories or even try to find the next story route, but none of these experiences lend themselves well to the pick up and play aspect of portable gaming. In fact, Breath of the Wild really lends itself to longer play sessions which are best experienced on a television. That doesn't mean there is no joy to playing Breath of the Wild in handheld mode. I just feel like you're doing yourself a disservice as playing Breath of the Wild is best experienced in dock mode. Super Mario Odyssey, however, is the perfect pick up and play game. The main collectibles are the Power Moons and they are scattered everywhere. You can literally find 3 to 5 moons every 5 minutes within your first playthrough of a kingdom, and with every moon found, you are left feeling pretty accomplished. There are also a handful of kingdoms that are pretty small. Even the boss fights are also relatively short and for the most part not too difficult, which means you could probably beat whole kingdoms while on your commute to work or school. It makes you feel like you're doing something worthwhile the entire play session in handheld mode. Short pick up and play sessions are welcome. I give this subcategory to Super Mario Odyssey without a doubt. So to quickly recap, in order for me to determine which of the two games made for the better portable experience, I had to break this category down into 3 subcategories: battery life, controls, and reward factor, with Super Mario Odyssey taking 2 of the 3 categories, battery life and reward factor, only losing out to Breath of the Wild's control scheme. Yet I feel confident in saying that Super Mario Odyssey wins the category of portable experience hands down. So that's going to conclude our 5th episode of Wild Odyssey. Tune in next week for the series finale, which will include myself, Blues, Jay Brilliant, and Jaden Winsong. And if you enjoy this content, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on Wild Odyssey, subscribe to the Nintendo Power Zone right here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. Deuces.